sir.
वीडियोस ऑन कर रहे हो क्या?
Unstable and network connection.
नेटवर्क में इशू आ रहा है सबके। चलो ठीक है। सो अपन ज़्यादा टाइम वेस्ट नहीं करेंगे, सो लेट्स गेट ऑन विद द क्लास डायरेक्टली। हमने मेटल्स नॉन मेटल्स कंप्लीट कर लिया था। कोई उसमें डाउट है किसी को अभी तक? फाइव शीट जिसने भी नहीं की थी, आई होप अब तक कर ली हो। सारा डिस्कशन हो चुका है वैसे तो। कोई डाउट हो तो पूछ लो, नहीं है तो लेट्स स्टार्ट। सो विल स्टार्ट टुडे विद हेरिडिटी एंड एवोल्यूशन। एक इंट्रोडक्शन मैंने दे दिया था तुम लोगों को पिछली बार ही, बट आई विल स्टार्ट बैक विद इट क्योंकि टाइम ज़्यादा हो गया अपन को, बीच में गैप ज़्यादा आ गया। सो हेरिडिटी एंड एवोल्यूशन, these two words are super important, ठीक है, because essentially इन्हीं के बेसिस पे हम लोग समझते हैं how human race is kind of going forward, right? So heredity, क्या होता है heredity? किसी को याद है? What is heredity? Inherited properties और characteristics, सेम चीजें होती हैं दोनों, सेम, both the words mean the same thing, characteristics. Okay, inherited properties or characteristics such as the body form, ठीक है, हम लोगों का जो बॉडी फॉर्म है, जो हम एक दूसरे से सिमिलर लगते हैं फ्रॉम आवर प्रीवियस जनरेशन एंड टू इवन फ्रॉम द प्रीवियस जनरेशन, ऑल ऑफ दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ हेरिडिटी, ठीक है। अगर हम ऐसा नहीं होता, अगर हम वो इनहेरिट नहीं करते, देन आवर बॉडीज विल बी डिफॉर्म्ड। हर बार द न्यू बॉर्न बेबी वुड बी लाइक अ डिफरेंट बॉडी फॉर्म के साथ आया होता, हो सकता है हाथ पैर की जगह होते और पैर हाथ की जगह होते, ठीक है, एंड सो ऑन। सो दोज इनहेरिटेड प्रॉपर्टीज कम अंडर हेरिडिटी। व्हाट इज एवोल्यूशन?
The development of an organism over a period of time.
आलिया थोड़ा लाउडली और थोड़ा क्लियरली, मेरे को प्रॉपर्ली सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है यहाँ पे।
So the development of an organism.
Development of organism, kind of, yes, but it is more importantly how do we survive, ठीक है। Now the survival can be on the basis of the development, which is, say, we grow fur, or the animals that are living in polar ice caps or very cold regions, they develop fur, very thick fur, ठीक है। So that is the bodily development, but at the same time evolution also comes in, where, say, survival of the fittest happens or survival by chance happens. Okay, so say in one part of the earth there's like a huge meteor that kind of comes in and all the people in that region die. Then the people who are survived, who have survived, we will also call that evolution, okay. Suppose everyone else dies except for say tigers and leopards, all the mankind dies because of, say, a virus or whatever, and the only things remaining are the animals, then they will now evolve to being a better species on the earth, okay. Then there won't be any man to kind of hold them down. There's always, like, they will kind of take the top spot in the food chain or whatever change, correct, okay. So this is essentially how species survive, okay. Different species survives, be it us, be it any other thing. So these are the two things that we'll be talking about in this chapter, and they are very cool. They're super interesting. If you are interested in basic understanding of how we live or what humans are or how are we surviving for so long on this earth. Okay, so it's a really cool chapter. I find it very interesting. Okay, so let's start on with heredity first. I mentioned in the last class that there's this very simple exercise that you just have to check in your family a simple trait. Okay, so check their eye color, check their hair color, check their earlobes. Okay, these are earlobes. Check the shape of the nose, right? Check the shape of their jawline. All of these features, and I'm only talking about the face because that is the most prominent and you can realize it. Everything, there are similar features in other uh, parts of the body or uh, positions of the body. Okay, but face is the most visible and striking features that we can see. Now what happens is when we are inheriting different things, the offspring, be it a male or a female, they will inherit certain characteristics from each of the parents. Okay, so say from my mother, I got my hair. Okay, so the type of hair that I have is silky or is longish and everything. So that comes in from my mother. Now, my brother may or may not have it. Okay, may or may not have it, and that is what we'll be studying and understand what kind of determines that. At the same time the jawline can be because of my father, right? And these things, these characteristics that I have inherited as their child, as their offspring, is what heredity is. Okay, so these properties that I'm talking about, they are called traits. क्या मतलब होता है ट्रेड्स का? क्या मतलब होता है? Say, I'm listening.
Characteristic.
Characteristics. What kind of characteristics? The ones I mentioned. It can be facial features, it can be bodily features, it can be something else, it can be the tone of my voice. Okay? All of these are traits. Okay? Even the diseases that we inherit are a function of different properties, different characteristics that I have inherited. Okay? Now let's understand what they are. So there was a scientist called Mendel. Okay, and he was the one who kind of first did a proper scientific study on heredity and traits. So what he did was he grew peas. Now it might seem extremely boring, and it was. It might seem extremely long process, and it was. Okay, but what he discovered was, say I have a pea plant. Okay, I have one pea plant, let me call it, say uh, let's just call it P. I'll denote it like this. Okay, so what is this? This is a tall pea plant. Okay, at the same time I will also take another pea plant which is short, okay. Now what he did was he wanted to check if there is different species, like if I cross a tall pea plant with a short pea plant, will I get a tall plant or a short plant or a mix of them, or will I get an average in a middle? Okay, so if tall is this much, short is this much, will I get like a middle ground or a middle height? ठीक है, ऐसे ही सोचते हैं ना हम लोग कि यार एक मैंने बड़ी रस्सी ले ली, एक छोटी रस्सी ले ली, ठीक है, तो अब उन दोनों को जब मैं बांध के हाफ कर दूंगा तो आई विल गेट समवेयर इन द मिडिल रेंज. So he wanted to experiment with that and figure out how that worked. So he self pollinated them. ठीक है, so आपस में self pollinate कर लिया. In his first round of this experiment, he got the result as all of them were like this, but all of them were tall. That means even though I have written a small t over here, the plant that came out or the plant that actually grew was still tall. Okay? And I have written this t to show that I have crossed them. So t cross t. Okay, so I have basically used all the different genes. I'm denoting these as the genes, and I'll get back to why I have written it in this form for a better understanding. Then what happened? I took these. So this is called the F1 progeny. F1 progeny. Progeny are these ones. Let me just write it here. What does progeny mean? Neil, Adi, Prakhar, I want to hear from you guys also.
सर पता नहीं.
पता नहीं, लगा भी नहीं सकता अपना दिमाग, क्या हो सकता है? डिक्शनरी खोल के बैठ जाया करो यार फिर, स्पेशली साइंस क्लास में. क्या हो सकता है? When I'm crossing and I'm basically forming offsprings, तो progeny का क्या मतलब हुआ? Progeny का मतलब हुआ offsprings at the end. It's just another word for offsprings. It's a scientific word for offsprings. Offspring is used in common terms. ठीक है? Now, so this was the first. F1 इसलिए क्योंकि ये first process था या first time we are kind of self-pollinating. Now, तो जो इसका पहला assumption था कि यार I take a tall plant and I'll take a short plant, and now the trees that I should be getting or the pea plants that I should be getting should either be all tall or should either be all short, or ideally what is the highest probability कि उनकी जो height होगी वो average होगी. ठीक है, average height की होंगे. But when he actually did the process, when he actually did the reproduction, he saw that all of the plants were tall. ठीक है, which was surprising to him because there was no factor of short plants anywhere. And so he repeated the experiment, and this is called F2, basically second time when he did it, but he only did it with these plants this time. So using this mixture, he was trying to get and trying to see what happens now. Now, what happens this time is very interesting. He gets tall, 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 and short. So he gets 3 tall and 1 short. That means 1/4 of the plants, 1/4 of the plants were short, even though they did not show it in the first generation of reproductive offsprings. क्या ये समझ में आया? क्या किया मैंने and why did I do this so far? I'll explain what this means. I'll explain how what conclusions we come out of it. But did you understand what did Mendel actually do? What experiment did he do? Adi, Neil, Prakhar, Alia.
जी
आगे आलिया.
सर एक बार फिर से एक्सप्लेन कर दीजिए.
और किसी को?
सर मेरे को भी नहीं आया.
सर मेरे को भी.
ठीक है. Now, see, what are we doing here? Suppose I have black eyes, okay, and say another person has blue eyes. Now the question becomes, ki, how does one determine who gets blue eyes and who does not? And that was the challenge that Mendel was trying to solve. He wanted to see कि these traits, tall, short, eye color, roundness or wrinkles, ठीक है, या height wise, all of the different things, how does it come through? Let me give you an example. So he started with an experiment where he took some pea plants, which one of them was tall and another one was short. And here he cross-pollinated. Acha, I think I said self-pollinated the first time. In the first round, he cross-pollinated because they are two different breeds. So यहाँ पे cross-pollination होगा. ये तो क्लियर है ना? cross-pollination क्या होता है?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. cross-pollination is two different टाइप ऑफ प्लांट्स के बीच में जो पॉलिनेशन होता है उसको क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन बोलते हैं. सो व्हाट डिड ही डू? एक टॉल पी प्लांट लिया और एक शॉर्ट पी प्लांट लिया और उनके बीच में क्रॉस पॉलिनेट कर दिया. व्हाई डिड ही डू दैट? बिकॉज ही वांटेड टू सी कि व्हेन आई क्रॉस पॉलिनेट what will be the type of plant that I will get? Will it be a tall plant? Will it be a short plant? Will it be a middle height plant? ठीक है. How does the height of a plant gets determined naturally? And that's why he wanted to do this exercise. So he cross pollinated and he got the results as this. That जब मैं ऐसे लिख रहा हूं, that doesn't mean कि he only grew 4 plants. No, he grew a lot more plants for his study. 4 plants हम इसलिए ले रहे हैं because the ratio in the second thing comes out clearly. ठीक है. So यहाँ पे हम क्या कर रहे हैं कि we are just showing that all the plants that he got out of this cross pollination were tall, and he was surprised. He was surprised because he was expecting most of them to be at the middle height. He was like यार अगर मैं एक बड़ी रस्सी और एक छोटी रस्सी लेता हूं और उन दोनों को जोड़ने के बाद if I join both of them and then I cut both of them from the middle, I get 2 pieces of middle length. This is what happens if I take a rope like that. एक लंबी I take one long rope and a short rope and I join both of them and I cut it in the middle. Now I have 2 middle-sized ropes. And he was expecting the same here, but that did not happen. But he did not stop here. He was like, okay, let me try another round of this. But this time, I will use the plants that I've already got. That means I will use the plants from F1 progeny and I will self-pollinate them. I will self-pollinate them. That means because they are from the same uh, uh, self-pollinate, as in from in within the plant itself, I am pollinating. Okay? So self-pollinated them, and now this time the results that he got were even more surprising, because this time he realized that 3/4, again, this is the reason we are taking 4 units here. In reality, when he did it, it was hundreds of pea plants at a time. So, what did he get? He got 3/4 of his plants as tall and 1/4 of his plants as short. And he was surprised. Hey, I self pollinated a tall plant, and yet this time I'm getting a short plant. Okay, अब आया क्या ये समझ में?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है? So this was what the experiment that Mendel did, and now his conclusions were even more interesting. What were the conclusions? He said कि यार ये जो traits हैं, ठीक है, all of these different traits are essentially properties: tall, short, colors, what, all of these things. These traits, there are two types of traits. One, dominant traits. Other, recessive traits. What this means, that when I'm, even if I have a single dominant trait, that means the capital T that I've written, that is I'm writing the capital for a dominant trait. So the capital T that I'm writing is a dominant trait. That means even if there's a single dominant trait, the plant would take its, I mean, that trait will be projected outwards. That means uski properties हमें दिखेंगी. Only requires one. Only requires one in number. Okay? At the same time, the recessive traits require at least two. At least two in number to show their properties. Okay, if a plant needs to be short or wants to be short, because it is a recessive trait, there needs to be two small t's in that plant to show that it is a small plant, or show as in to actually come up as a short plant. Okay? So these two types of traits are very important in understanding the whole thing. क्या ये समझ में आ गया?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है? And for every trait, for every property, for every trait, there are two copies. Two copies means if a plant wants to be tall, there needs to be two copies or two different things that will define a trait. Okay? Now, in the two, if one is dominant and the other one is recessive, then the dominant one will show up. Okay? But if both of them are dominant, then obviously the dominant one will show up. And if the both of them are recessive, then the recessive one will show up. But in each trait, that means if I want blue eyes or if I want green hair, there will be two traits inside of it. क्या है समझ में आया? These are essentially genes. Okay? Let me simplify it for you. For every trait, there are two genes involved. Now, I want you to recall what genes were from the last chapter of biology. क्या होते हैं genes? सब भूल गए, नहीं आ रहा क्या? Genes are parts of DNA which define or give the information about how our bodies will develop. Okay, so these are essentially parts of DNA containing information about development. Development of the body. ठीक है? So, for each trait, now trait is the property that we see on the outside. So, if I'm seeing, say, black eyes, then I either have this or I have this. This means what? Either I have one dominant black gene and another recessive, say, brown gene. That means अगर मेरे दोनों small b होते, then I would have had brown eyes. But because I have black eyes, then I can say either I have a black gene or two black genes, and the black gene is the dominant one. ठीक है? Let me give you another example और उससे और समझ में आ जाएगा. क्या ये clear है अभी तक पर? What are
Yes,
traits?
sir.
ठीक है. Now, let me give you another example, and this time we will now have two different traits. ठीक है? Two or more different traits. So let's say, and I'll take the same example of the P. I have tall P and short P, but at the same time, the tall one is also round, and the short one is wrinkled. ठीक है? So my tall P is also round. That means it is perfectly round. But जो मेरा short वाला है, it is wrinkled. That means उसके ऊपर थोड़े से wrinkles हैं. ठीक है? And now I need to find out how will my P's will come out. So how will this work out? If we cross it like this, okay? If we cross it like this, we will first see only one each. So if we only talk about one of them, जो कि relative है, then I will see the same results as last, जो पिछला वाला हमने किया. So इसके केस में क्या होगा? Okay? और इसके केस में क्या होगा? Same thing. Remember, the capital R represents dominant trait. Okay? But now, because I want a mixture of both of them, So I'll do and this time I will get a varied result. What is that varied result? I will get all the different combinations of these traits. That means I will have to, it'll be quite a matrix. Let me make it. So, an easy way to make the table is to just write down So I'm making this table just so you understand how they will multiply. So the first one will be both tall. क्या ये समझ में आ रहा है या कंफ्यूजन हो रहा है यहाँ पे?
सर जो कैपिटल आर है वो क्या रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं?
क्या वापस से बोल आलिया?
जो कैपिटल आर है वो क्या रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं?
कैपिटल आर क्या रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है? कैपिटल आर रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है राउंड शेप्ड सीड. राउंड शेप्ड सीड. अगर तुम लोगों को इसमें कंफ्यूजन हो रहा है तो आई कैन जस्ट टेक कलर्स. कलर्स में इजी हो जाएगा शायद. Do you want me to take colors?
यस सर.
ठीक है, कलर वाला लेते हैं. ओके. Okay, so let's take it in colors. Let's say I have one round and at the same time it is green. ठीक है? So this is round and green. So I will write it as this. And I have another piece which is a little wrinkly. And so this is not round and this is yellow. ठीक है? Now, remember how does sexual reproduction happens? Both the sides will give me one germ cell. So, my germ cell would be 1 R from here, 1 G from here. So, each of the genes, ये दोनों अलग-अलग traits हैं, इन दोनों में अलग-अलग genes हैं. I will get one gene from each because my germ cell can only handle one pair. ठीक है? Remember, जो germ cell होता है उसके अंदर half the number of chromosomes होते हैं from a usual cell. क्या ये याद आ गया? Half the number
यस
of,
सर.
ठीक है? It has half the number of cells. Okay, sorry, my bad. अगर मैं यहाँ पे green ले रहा हूँ, so let me take this green and this will be small g. ठीक है? So that's why half the number आ रहे हैं यहाँ पे. Same time, this is also germ cell. यहाँ पे क्या होगा? One of each. And now they both will combine to give me their cross-pollinated offspring, which will have a combination of these. So R small r and G small g. And now I will self-pollinated. Okay, this is what we did in the first experiment also. We took the initial ones, tall, short, and then first progeny जो हुआ था वो ये वाला आया था जिसमें mixture आ रहा था, and then जब मैंने self किया, that means the F2 progeny, वो अब हम देखेंगे क्योंकि उसके अंदर हमारे results different आ रहे थे. ठीक है, can you follow so far?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. Remember, capital G is green, small g is yellow, capital R is round, small r is wrinkled. Okay. Now, when I do, so this is my F1 progeny, this one, and when I do the self, this will be my F2 progeny. And now in the case of F2 progeny, how will I get it? Let's see. And for that, I'll make a table. बहुत ही simple table है. I want to see what are the different types of permutation combinations that are possible in it. So I will write RG, R small g, small r capital G, small r small g. ठीक है, and the same thing here as well. Why have I done this? Because जब मेरा ये है and when it self pollinates, then I can have any different combinations of these genes. I can have any different combinations of these genes, and that's why I have written the same genes on both the sides, because these are the combinations that are possible. And now I will see how they result together. Now when both of these combine, I will get two capital R's, two capital G's. That means what? This is round and it is green. Kya, can you follow me here?
Yes, sir.
Pakka?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Take care. Now we'll go a little faster. So now two capital R's and this. And this. R, small r, capital G, small g. That means what? I have one round and green, another one also round and green. Why is this green? Why is the second one green? Why is the second one green? Or am I wrong in saying that it is green? Dominant recessive क्या होता है? Because there is a single dominant green gene available here, even though I have a yellow gene present, but because the green gene is dominant, that's why the P will take the result of the dominant gene. That means it will be round and it will be green. Okay, not a mix of green and yellow. ऐसा नहीं है कि नया कलर बन जाएगा ग्रीन और येलो मिला के. No, it is either green or yellow. ठीक है, but यहाँ पे yellow जो है, it is a recessive trait, a recessive gene. That's why we won't be getting the result. The resultant color of that P will be green. Is this understood? क्या ये आया समझ में?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. Similarly, here also, because I have a dominant gene of round, even though I have a wrinkled gene also present, but because I have a dominant gene of round, the resultant P will also be round and green. So, three round and greens, three round and greens, और ये मैंने शायद गलत कर दिया है, नहीं, ये सही. And this is also round and green. This is also round and green because again the dominant genes are round and green over here. Fine. So that is the first case जो अभी हमने किया. Second, let's do. Fine. I've just essentially multiplied them or put them together and put the R's together and G's together. ठीक है, as it is that they are. Okay, यहाँ पे G है, यहाँ पे small g है, capital G, small g, capital R, capital R. ठीक है, it's just very simple. Now, let's see the results of it. This is round and green. This is round and round and yellow this time because there is no dominant trait for green present. So it is round but yellow, which remember earlier we started with round and green and wrinkled and yellow. So this is a new thing that we are seeing. We are seeing a round P which is yellow in color. So that means that the traits are intermixing as well. क्या ये समझ में आया? The
Yes,
traits
sir.
are
Yes, sir.
intermixing this time. Okay, and that is where the cool part comes in. When, so remember, all of this is experimental. जिस तरह से अभी हमने ये table बनाई है, this table for us is very easy. Okay, that's why we are able to make it like this. But when Mendel did it, it took him years because it takes time for the P to grow and for him to check kitna hua statistically. He used a lot of statistics around this. That's why we are able to do this in such a small time. Okay, and we know this clear ratios कि 1/4 ऐसा आएगा, दूसरी चीजें ऐसे आएंगे. ठीक है, and we can see the statistics here also. We'll come to that once we finish off with the table. So this is all experimental result that was found out by Mendel, and out of which the conclusions came in. Okay? So we get a round and yellow P. We get again a round and a green P, and here we get a round and yellow P again. Okay. Next, round and green, wrinkled and green, which is a new combination again. Okay, it wasn't there when we began. So this is now wrinkled and green. Similarly, this is wrinkled and green. Fine. Next, round and green, round and yellow, wrinkled and green. This is finally the same as the initial one, which is wrinkled and yellow. That means there are कितने प्रोजेनीज हो गए ये? 16 प्रोजेनीज हो गए. रिमेंबर दीज आर ऑल यहां से स्टार्ट हो रहे हैं प्रोजेनीज, कंफ्यूज नहीं होना है. ठीक है, all of this here are the progenies. There are 16 progenies, out of which only one single is the recessive trait progeny, जो कि similar है अपने पेरेंट से, ग्रैंड पेरेंट से, एक तरह से बोल सकते हैं. ठीक है, and at the same time only a single one as the initial, but all of the others are a mix, out of which also the dominant genes, which is round and green, have the most, and round and yellow and wrinkled and green are somewhere in between. ठीक है, इनको काउंट कर सकते हैं. 1 2 3 and that's it. So 3 for round and yellow are 3, and wrinkled and green will also be 3. Wrinkled and green, wrinkled and green, wrinkled and green. So they will also be 3. Initial ones 2, and all of the rest are the dominant traits, red and round and green. क्या ये समझ में आया? It is pure statistics. Understood?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. So we clearly see a lot of new combinations as well in F2 progeny. This is F2 progeny के अंदर we are seeing new combinations. Fine. इधर से हमारे पास एक very important conclusion आता है, and that conclusion is that these traits, the roundness and the color of the piece, are inherited independently, are inherited independently. क्या मतलब हुआ इसका? कोई समझा सकता है क्या मुझे? कोई समझा सकता है क्या मुझे? What do we mean by this? And how are we able to conclude this? How is very important. बिना how के इधर सब हवा में बात कर रहे हैं, उसको रटना हो जाएगा फिर. ये जो हमने एक्सरसाइज करी अभी पूरी, कि भाई हमने देखा कि ये मल्टीप्लाई होता है, मल्टीप्लाई होके इस तरह से स्टैटिस्टिक्स से हमें पता चला कि ऐसे रिजल्ट आता है. क्या रिजल्ट आ रहा है उसमें कि भाई राउंड एंड ग्रीन जो है वो मैक्सिमम आ रहे हैं, राउंड एंड येलो एंड रिंकल्ड ग्रीन भी आए, और फाइनली जो रिंकल्ड एंड येलो वाला है वो एक ही है. These are the statistics that we get. How are we able to say that the traits are inherited independently? नहीं आ रहा है तो मना करो, वरना टाइम लगेगा. किसी को आ रहा है तो you can always try to give an answer. डिस्कशन में तभी मजा आता है. आदि है क्या? कुछ चल रहा है
No,
दिमाग में?
sir. No, sir.
कुछ नहीं, कुछ तुक्का भी नहीं? क्यों हो सकता है? नील तेरा भी दिमाग चलता है, चल रहा है क्या कुछ इस पे?
No, sir.
आलिया, प्रखर, तुम दोनों में से किसी का?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Now, how can we conclude this very important thing? Is because of two reasons. One, we see that there is a majority. So हमने जो dominant recessive वाला पहले डिसाइड किया था या पहले हमने पढ़ा था, वो चीज यहाँ पे applicable है, and that is why we are seeing a clear statistical numbers for that. ठीक है कि राउंड एंड ग्रीन वाले सबसे ज्यादा हैं, बट दे आर नॉट ऑल ऑफ इट. ओके, अगर ऐसा होता कि सारे के सारे हमारे राउंड एंड ग्रीन हैं, दैट मीन्स कि सारे जो हमारे प्रोजेनी है वो सेम तरीके के बन रहे हैं, तो फिर वहां पे डोमिनेंट रिसेसिव वाला होता ही नहीं. दैट मीन्स डोमिनेंट रिसेसिव है तो ये हमारे पेयर्स में तो जा ही रहे हैं. ठीक है, दैट इज हाउ वी कंक्लूड द पेयर्स, because we are getting dominant and recessive traits again. At the same time, we are getting new combinations, right? क्योंकि हमारे को न्यू कॉम्बिनेशन मिल रहे हैं. नाउ न्यू कॉम्बिनेशन क्या तब पॉसिबल हो सकता था अगर ये इंडिपेंडेंटली इनहेरिट नहीं हो रहे होते? कैन वी गेट दिस? क्या ये हमें मिल रहा होता अगर मैं सिर्फ इसको या इससे भी जो पहले वाला F1 प्रोजेनी जो था उससे जब मैं करता? Could we have got this if we did not independently inherit? अच्छा, अगर तुम लोगों को समझ में आ रहा है कि इंडिपेंडेंटली इनहेरिट करने का मतलब क्या हुआ? क्योंकि ये मतलब ही नहीं समझ में आएगा तो मैं जितना भी बोल दूंगा सब बेकार है. इंडिपेंडेंटली इनहेरिटेंस का मतलब है कि जो मेरा ट्रेट है ऑफ राउंडनेस, ओके, द ट्रेट ऑफ राउंडनेस एंड द ट्रेट ऑफ कलर. आया ये समझ में? देयर आर टू ट्रेट्स दैट आई कैन सी फ्रॉम द आउटसाइड. वन इज द पी राउंड और इज द पी रिंकल्ड. ठीक है, राउंड और रिंकल्ड, these are similar, मतलब वो सेम ट्रेट के ही कॉम्बिनेशन है. The other is color, which is the trait is the color green or is the color yellow. Same trait के ही अलग अलग रूप हैं. ठीक है, how can I say that they are inherited independently? Because I see new combinations. अगर ये combinations नहीं होते, if I had not found these combinations, then I could easily say, so I could have easily said that the dominant genes overtake everything. तो फिर सारे मेरे राउंड और ग्रीन ही होने चाहिए थे, and maybe one could have been this. ठीक है, but because they are inherited independently, that is why I can mix and match. The mix and match, this table that we have made, ये mix and match कब हो रहा है? ये mix and match हो ही तब रहा है जब ये inherit हम independently कर पा रहे हैं कि भाई एक बार मैंने कैपिटल G लिया, एक बार स्मॉल g लिया, एक बार स्मॉल r लिया, एक बार कैपिटल G लिया. This means that I am taking independently of each other, right? This is also the process that I showed कि जब वो gametes बनते हैं या वो germ cells जब बन रहे हैं, I'm only taking one gene of each trait. I'm taking one gene of each trait. ठीक है, तो वहां पे that result जो मैंने अभी उससे पहले दिखाया था, that is हमें बाद में फाउंड आउट किया गया. पहले ये रिजल्ट आया, उसके बाद we realize कि okay, in the gametes we are taking one gene for each of the characteristics, each of the different traits. क्या ये समझ में आया? नहीं आया तो मैं रिपीट कर दूंगा, बट बताओ तो सही क्या हुआ. आलिया क्या बोल रही हो?
रिपीट कर दीजिए एक बार।
सॉरी,
रिपीट कर दीजिए।
रिपीट कर दूं? ओके। ओके, या सपोज मेरे पास दो पेन, ठीक है, और दो रिफिल है। जो रिफिल हैं वो दो अलग कलर की हैं, जो पेन की बॉडीज हैं वो भी दो अलग अलग कलर्स की हैं, या शेप बोल देते हैं। पेन की जो बॉडीज हैं दे आर ऑफ टू डिफरेंट शेप्स एंड द रिफिल्स आर ऑफ टू डिफरेंट कलर्स। नाउ अगर in how many ways can I put different ink or put different shape of the body in uh, jumble them up? There can be many ways, right? एक शेप लिया उसमें दोनों कलर्स डाल दिए, दैट इज वन थिंग। दूसरा शेप लिया उसमें दोनों कलर्स डाल दिए, तो मेरे पास चार सेट्स बन गए अलग 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 अलग। यस और नो?
यस सर।
ठीक है। नाउ जब मैं इसको देखता हूं, it is very similar. Okay, what is happening in here is very similar to the example that I just gave you. जो हमारे initial traits थे, which is roundness and the green color, at the same time the initial trait जिसके साथ हमने cross pollinate किया था, which was wrinkled and yellow in color, ठीक है, उनके साथ हमें बेसिकली कॉम्बिनेशंस बनाने हैं। अब वो कॉम्बिनेशंस बन कैसे रहे हैं ये हमें सोचना है, ठीक है। इनहेरिटेड इंडिपेंडेंटली का क्या मतलब हुआ कि अगर हमारे पास ये नए कॉम्बिनेशन नहीं बन रहे होते, इफ आई वाज नॉट गेटिंग अ राउंड पी with yellow color, if I was only getting the round and the green together, जब मेरे को ये दोनों चीजें साथ में ही मिल रही होती है, देन आई वुड सेड कि यार हर बार ये राउंड और ग्रीन साथ में आ रहे हैं, दैट मीन्स दे आर लिंक्ड टू ईच अदर। बट बिकॉज आई सी दिस हैपनिंग कि राउंड के साथ येलो भी आ रहा है, विच वॉज नॉट देयर अर्लियर, आई कैन सिंपली कम टू द कंक्लूजन कि हो सकता है द राउंडनेस वाला ट्रेट, जिसके दो पार्ट्स हैं, वन इज द राउंडनेस एंड द अदर इज रिंकल्ड, दो ही से कर रहे हैं ना। इन रियल लाइफ देयर कैन बी मल्टीपल पॉसिबिलिटीज, ओके, देयर कैन बी राउंड, it can be of different other shape, it can be wrinkled, it can be something something, ठीक है। but हम for our sake of simplicity and understanding we are keeping only two options. That means कि when I talk about the shape of the uh, P, I'm only talking about two shapes. One, either it can be round or it can be wrinkled. At the same time, the color of the P has only two options. Either it can be green or it can be yellow. If the round shape and the green color were linked together, अगर वो linked together होते, then every time I get the green color, I should have gotten a round P. Or every time I get a round P, I should have gotten the green color. क्या ये समझ में आया?
यस सर।
Yes? But the very fact that I am getting new combinations where I am getting the round P, that means the shape of roundness, but with a different color, and at the same time another different shape and the different color, the very fact that I am getting this tells me कि हो सकता है कि ये दोनों जो traits हैं, the shape trait and the color trait, both of these traits are coming independently, are inherited independently of each other. That means they are not linked together inside. Okay, अंदर linked नहीं है, वो एक दूसरे से इंडिपेंडेंट हैं. ठीक है, ये जो स्टेटिस्टिक्स में हमारे पास आया दिस थिंग, उससे हम ये सिंपल बट वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रिजल्ट निकाल सकते हैं कि बिकॉज ऑफ दीज न्यू कॉम्बिनेशंस आई कैन क्लियरली से दैट these traits, the shape and the color traits, are inherited independently. Okay, and the reason I am getting most, या मेरे पास सबसे ज्यादा नंबर ऑफ जो पीस हैं वो राउंड और ग्रीन है, the reason for that is because of the dominant traits, because round and green are the dominant traits, and that's why we get most of our peas as round and green. Was this clear now? Is this clear now?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, this is an, see, in your book it's just given, like it's literally I mean, I have the book open and it's literally the last line and it's stated very simply. But I don't know if the book realizes how important this one statement is. Because ये नहीं समझते हैं, तब हम इसको रटने लग जाते हैं. हाँ भाई ऐसा होता है, चलो चलो कर लेते हैं. But ऐसा होता है. This has been experimentally found. But we now need to understand कि ये होता क्यों है, या हम ये conclusion कैसे निकाल पा रहे हैं इस experiment के basis पे. यही समझना is the important thing. ठीक है? So that's why this one statement is very important, and the other thing that is important is the dominant and recessive traits का difference. ठीक है, इन दोनों के बीच में जो डिफरेंस होता है दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ओके, क्लियर है सबको?
Yes, sir.
क्या बाकियों को नहीं बोलना क्या?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, ठीक है. सो विल स्टॉप हियर फॉर टुडे. नेक्स्ट क्लास में करेंगे आगे. वापस से बोल रहा हूँ, किसी का भी कुछ पीछे का बचा हुआ है, something that you haven't done, maybe in the next last chapter or last to last chapter or anything before that, finish it up, क्योंकि now we'll be speeding up. और थोड़ा सा मतलब इतना स्लो नहीं चल सकते हैं हम, ऑलरेडी काफी टाइम डिले होता जा रहा है. ठीक है, so I'll also be speeding up my teaching as well, but I want you to understand and I want you to start bucking up. अभी तक काम बहुत कम कर रहे हो तुम लोग. ठीक है, so next time hopefully I'll be able to send you the sheet as well, so you can start working on that as well. ठीक है, and test का हम लोग तुम लोगों को बता देंगे अभी, क्योंकि घर में जो भी सब चल रहा है उसकी वजह से इस संडे तो शायद ही हो पाएगा, but we'll let you know. ठीक है, but if not this Sunday then maybe next Sunday for sure. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.